James 5:11 says, as you know, we consider blessed those who have persevered. Implication, through hard times. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. What God was teaching Paul and Silas through their frustration was, even when you don't understand, I'm still compassionate and merciful. And I see the big picture, and I have your good at heart, and I have a future and a hope for you. And even if you're frustrated, and even if you think I'm reneging on my part of the bargain, I want you to know I'm compassionate and merciful, and you need to trust me. P.J. Matthews says it this way, perhaps no single event since the cross of Christ has so affected the world as Paul's seemingly unpretentious decision to cross a narrow neck of water. I am sure that if the Emperor Claudius, who occupied the throne in Rome at that time, had been asked to name the most significant event of his reign, he would never have dreamed of suggesting, had he even known about it, that it was the occasion when an obscure little bald-headed Jew decided to leave Asia for Europe. That is how little we understand the history we are living through. We do not know what the really great events are. I wonder, is it just possible that the source of your frustration, the source of your confusion, is really one of the greatest events of your life, and that if only you would trust God through it, you would find Him faithful to you? You may be trying to serve Him over here, and He keeps slamming you and saying, no, no, no. And you're tempted to give up and throw in the towel. No, just cool your jets in Troas for a little while. Be faithful. You may be so confused because you think you're looking for this, but God is leading you to this. Sometimes we have to be flexible and go with the flow of the Spirit. Sometimes what frustrates and confuses us is God's way of directing us to His best. And the worst thing you can ever do is quit on God because you think He's a cable guy. He's not. He's far greater than that. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Andy, this makes a good sermon, and that's all cool for the guys in the book of Acts. But you know, I live in the real world, and I have real disappointments, and I have real struggles, and I'm just not really sure I buy this, that God can be trusted. So I know what you're thinking, and for that reason, I've invited some friends to come up here and tell you the story of what God is doing in their life. So I'm going to ask them to come out from wherever they are, from the back and all over the place. These are IBCers who basically have a story to tell about how God has brought them through a time of frustration and confusion into a space where they can finally look back and see that what frustrated and confused them so much was really God's best in their life. Let me introduce our panelists to you tonight. On the couch, we have Karl and Laurel Pointer. The Pointers have been married to one another for 8 years. They have a cat named Champ who thinks he's a dog, but they haven't told him he's not. So that's my kind of cat, I got to tell you. Karl is the king of the parking lot crew out here, and Laurel works in our ministry to women. She is a retreat coordinator and attends women's Bible study. Laurel says that shopping is her spiritual gift. Karl begs to disagree. But he plays in 3 fantasy football leagues, so I guess we all have our thing, don't we?
Well, I think like most girls growing up, my dream was to grow up, get married, start a family, and be the kind of my mother was to me. And when the Lord placed Karl in my life and we fell in love and got married, I thought, okay, I'm on the road for my plan and what I want to do. And shortly after, 2 years after we were married, we decided to start a family. And that's where my plan took a left and God's plan went straight ahead.
This is where we begin our road to Troas. Shortly after Laurel became pregnant, we had a miscarriage. About a year and a half later, after trying, we became pregnant again, only to find out that she had a second miscarriage and also a tubal pregnancy at the same time, and they had to take her tube. They say the odds of having both those at the same time is about 1 in 30,000, and she was the one. We continued on the road, fertility treatments for several years, and just really nothing was happening for us. And then we found out Laurel had a cyst on one of her ovaries, and they had to take the ovary as well as the cyst. which kind of led us to where we are now. The dream of having children of our own was dashed.
With the realization that we were never going to have children, at least the natural way, my dream was dashed, and I was angry, and I was frustrated, and I didn't know what to do. And I thought, my plan is never going to happen. And so we turned to each other, and we turned to our family, and then a friend of ours suggested that maybe we spend 40 days in prayer and really talk to God about what his plan was for us, whether it was to adopt, to continue fertility treatments, or to do nothing. And so, as you know, Karl's a high school coach, and we have Fellowship of Christian Athletes in our home. And one night the study was on, do you ever question what God's doing in your life? And of course, Karl and I were the first ones to raise our hands with the kids and say yes. And so we shared our hearts with them about what was going on. And it was amazing to see how God worked through those kids in our lives. Several of them throughout the next 40 days, just at random times, would either come by or call and say, hey, you know what? You're the parents we really don't have. We look at you to be mom, dad in our life. And some of the girls said, you know, we can talk to you about things we can't talk to our mom about. Others said, we know that we can stop by or call you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that you're there for us, and we don't have to worry about waking the baby or bothering the kids, that you're there for us. And along the way, one of the boys even started referring to me as Mama Coach. So at the end of the 40 days, I was like, okay, God, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. You're not going to give us children of our own naturally, but you are going to give us kids that we're responsible for spiritually. And that's where we are today.
So at Christmas time, when you get a Christmas card from us, you'll see us and the boys. And whenever Laurel's mom's asked about grandkids, she proudly pulls out her team photo and shows it to everybody. Although we don't have babies of our own, we do have spiritual children. We have 130 young men and about a dozen or so girls for Laurel to help balance her out there.
I think no matter whether you read the scriptures and see the experience of Paul and Silas in Acts chapter 16, or you read church history, or you listen to the real life stories of people that are in our lives right now at IBC, one conclusion that you have to draw is God is a great and faithful and compassionate and merciful God, but he is not the cable guy. He doesn't operate on formulas. He doesn't leap out of a bottle and do our will if we follow the formula. But he has great things in store for us if we trust him.